As a premier community in Hampton Roads, James City County strives to maintain a high quality of life for all citizens through sound fiscal management and legislative actions. In an ongoing effort to increase transparency, your Board of Supervisors holds public meetings to garner citizen input before making important decisions. Here is tonight's meeting agenda. Stay tuned. The Board of Supervisors meeting will begin shortly.
James City County Board of Supervisors, purpose of a regular meeting. Mr. Stevens, please call the roll.
Mr. McGlennon?
Here.
Mr. McGlennon represents the Robert District. Ms. Larson?
Here.
Ms. Larson represents the Berkeley District. Mr. Hipple?
Here.
Mr. Hipple represents the Powhatan District and is Vice Chair of the Board. Mr. Eisenhower?
Here.
Mr. Eisenhower represents the Jamestown District and is Chair of the Board. Sitting to my far left is Adam Kinsman, our County Attorney, and I'm Scott Stevens, County Administrator, and it's my pleasure to be Clerk to the Board.
Yeah, I need a motion to allow Ms. Sadler to participate remotely due to a medical condition that prevents her from attending the meeting.
So moved.
Okay, we have a motion. Mr. Stevens, call the roll.
Mr. McGlennon?
Aye.
Ms. Larson?
Aye.
Mr. Hipple? Aye. Mr. Eisenhower?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Sue, can you hear us?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay. And I would remind everyone, for Sue's benefit, when you're speaking, please speak very closely into the mic so that she can hear us. We had some difficulty last meeting with that. Okay. We will begin the meeting with a moment of silence, and then I will ask Ms. Peg Borman if you would lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance after the moment of silence.
Pledge allegiance to the flag and to the United States of America and to the religion of its stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, and
Okay, we begin this evening then with our presentations. Our first presentation is the Colonial Soil and Water Conservation District Report, and Mr. Douglas Hall, District Representative, will give the report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, distinguished members of the board and guests. I'm Doug Hall. I'm one of two elected representatives from James City County to the Colonial Soil and Water Conservation District. Our more senior director, Mr. Bob Lund, who normally briefs you, can't be with us tonight because he's recovering from heart surgery. So our thoughts and prayers are with Bob for a speedy recovery. With me tonight is Ms. Robin Goad, our Urban District Conservationist, and our District Manager, Mr. James Wallace. I'm here to brief you about our activities over the past year. You should have a hard copy of our annual report, and it's also available on our website. If you have any questions we can't answer tonight, we will do our best to get back with you as quickly as possible. Okay. Here we go. District is a political subdivision of the Commonwealth, and there are 47 of them within the state. Soil and water conservation districts were created in the 30s in a response to the Dust Bowl. Traditionally, they've had an agricultural conservation focus. However, as counties like James City County become more urbanized, that focus is changing a little bit. and we'll cover a little bit of that later. The Colonial District serves New Kent County, Charles City County, James City County, York County, and the city of Williamsburg. And there are 2 elected board of director members from each locality. Again, traditionally, we've been viewed as a agricultural entity supporting agricultural conservation, but the Colonial District has supported homeowners associations, schools, churches, and county properties as well. The district covers 825 square miles and is home to approximately 175,000 people, and we have 5 full-time staff members currently. Supplemental funding from local governments such as James City County allow us to do a lot more than the 60% roughly funding we get from Virginia Conservation and Recreation Department. And so we want to thank you for your support. It's too far. There we go. Our agricultural programs include the Virginia Agricultural Cost Share Program, or VACS. This provides technical and financial assistance for agricultural conservation practices. Over the past 5 years, we've spent over $107,000 on these programs in James City County. It includes nutrient management plans, covering plans to limit the amount of animal waste and other nutrients going into the waterways. Cover crops during the winter to hold soil in place, prevent soil erosion, and again, nutrients getting into the waterways, and continuous no-till. In addition, we support the Chesapeake Bay Preservation Act. In a cooperative agreement with the county, we conduct 20 agricultural assessments for Chesapeake Bay Preservation Act a year. The map shown illustrates kind of the way James City is set up, with Mainland Farm in the middle, a horse paddock to the left, and completely surrounded by suburban areas. Currently, there's a little over 3,000 acres of cropland in James City County. The district has a strong support for educational programs. We have sponsored James City High School's Envirothon team for several years now. That's an environmental/conservation themed competition for high school students. And in 2019, that team were the national champions. In addition, several staff members have partnered with the School Health Initiative program, several local elementary schools, to support after-school garden clubs. We facilitated lower cost camp experiences for participants in the forestry camp and the youth conservation camp, provided technical support for school and community gardens, such as Stonehouse Farm Club and Rob Till's Community Garden and Grove. The district provides a valuable conservation education resource with a unique knowledge base that augments other programs within the county. Since 2014, we've had a partnership with the Williamsburg Community Growers, and the community garden, as you probably all know, is located between War Hill High and the Williamsburg Indoor Sports Complex. In a land use agreement with James City County and Dominion Energy, this area is being farmed in an otherwise neglected green space. We've received over $100,000 in grants since inception to support the garden's education and conservation missions. And in 2020, over 3,000 pounds of produce were donated to local community members in need. Urban programs. These are up and coming within our district as we transition from agriculture to a more suburban setting. The Virginia Conservation Assistance Program, or VCAP, provides technical and financial assistance to install and implement conservation practices. This includes permeable paving for dryways, as an example, rain gardens, and living shorelines. In the last 4 years, VCAP has provided over $65,000 to James City County homeowners, HOAs, and schools, with matching funds from these entities totaling almost $42,000. VCAP does put a strain on the district because it's a 10-year commitment for inspections for district staff and an obligation for the applicant to maintain that conservation practice for 10 years. The district is also a non-voting member of the James City Stormwater Programs Advisory Committee and provides technical advice or assistance on request. Turf love, my young friend Robin's pride and joy, actually. Since February 2019, we've completed 158 nutrient management plans for private-owned properties and 24 for county properties. With support from the James City County Williamsburg Master Gardeners, Turf Love teaches homeowners how to maintain their lawns in an environmentally responsible manner. Master Gardener volunteers I'd like to recognize tonight who've been invaluable are Judy McCormick, Dave Kleppinger, Wendy Hamrick, and Doug Callery. In addition, in August 2019, Super Turf Saturday, a public educational event, provided over 100 attendees with sustainable lawn care advice from regional turf experts. Shoreline Evaluation Program. The district has recognized a need for technical assistance to people who own property on the water to better manage their property to prevent water quality degradation. In partnership with the Williamsburg James City County Master Gardeners, the Colonial District is developing a shoreline evaluation program in which participants will receive a shoreline assessment from the district staff or a Master Gardener volunteer. The assessment will include identification of current or potential shoreline issues, opportunities for improved management, and a final report with recommendations. The previous year, James City County has contributed over $61,000 to the Colonial District. This has been for the Chesapeake Bay assessments that we conduct in support of the county, for advice to agricultural landowners within the Chesapeake Bay Preservation Area, and the administration and execution of the Turf Love program. I'd personally like to thank the board and the members of James City County for your support. It's been a great partnership and we are looking forward to continuing it. I need to preface this next slide. It's what we'd like to see in the future. It's best case, and we all know that with COVID and other issues, we're not in the best case right now. So much like the county, we'll do what we can with what we have. So what we really want to do is we want to expand the Turf Love program. Again, as we go to a more suburban setting, we can hit more and more people. And every homeowner throws fertilizer and all kinds of crud on their yard. We can reach out to these folks and prevent this stuff from flowing into the bay. In addition, we want to get the shoreline evaluation program off the ground and get it running. So there is an increase in the request, and again, I understand the way things are, so we'll just see how it goes. Our future conservation opportunities, we'd like to expand VCAP. There's an opportunity for leveraging James City County environmental program funds, and we're investigating that. In addition, we've completed phase 1 of an equine survey for the county in the Chickahominy Creek, Ware Creek, and York River watersheds. What we found is the current stocking rate allowed by law in the county is well above industry standards and well above most counties in the state. So we're recommending that stocking rate be brought down. Horses in particular like to graze down to the roots and graze in the same spot over and over, so they end up killing the pasture. So you really have to have a rotational plan if you're going to maintain horses. And this is the kind of thing we need to bring to people who own horses and equine properties. In addition, we want to expand Turf Love, as I mentioned earlier, because it's been an outstanding program and it can do a lot of good. Thursday, I'm going to be briefing the Chesapeake Bay Board, which I think is the first time we've talked to them about what we're doing and what we can do in the future, partnering with their expertise as well. This is the contact information for anybody who may have any questions.
Chairman, let me just thank you, Mr. Hall, for the presentation and for all the work that the Colonial Soil and Water District have been working on over the years. It's been a real asset to the community. Appreciate all the effort that you put in, and I certainly join you in wishing Bob Lund a speedy recovery. Obviously, with the change in ability to have public meetings and so forth, it's put a real crimp in things. But I'm just amazed at the kind of work that you've been able to accomplish with relatively little funding, especially the farm plots that are the plots that are out in War Hill. That's a remarkable achievement out there.
I can't say enough good about Jim and his staff. They do outstanding work. They deserve all the praise we can give them.
I would just echo those same comments, and I'd like to also see the turf program grow. It's so important. I live in a neighborhood that has water and lakes, and a lot of what we're having problems with is from just over fertilization or not knowing what to throw on your lawn, so they just throw anything in and it ends up doing more harm. So thank you for everything that you've done.
I was telling Jim earlier, I was throwing some preen on my yard because it's full of weeds, and instead of doing that, I probably should have called Robin.
Won't tell.
With the turf program, I know a lot of our landscape companies go out and they'll spray throughout the year. Is there any work with the landscape companies as far as, the products they're putting out? I know the homeowners are probably that don't know turf management will throw, well, I think I need to put this out, or I think I need to put that out, and really don't know. But have you reached out to some of our landscape companies, and it might be a way for them to, have a program within their company that says, hey, we're gentle on the environment and we do certain things, to reuse products or have different products that are better or worse from the environment?
That one I'm going to have to turn over to Robin.
That may be something you can, join with them and do a luncheon or something, a lunch and learn, and bring the landscapers in and say, hey, this is what we're seeing, and how do y'all do what you're doing, and this is what we suggest per, square foot of product to go down. Might help both. Thank you.
Great idea. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hall. Really appreciate it. And I think we're still over the moon about the Jamestown Marathon team winning national last year. So keep
Absolutely.
up the good work.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you all.
Our next presentation is going to be the Greater Williamsburg Small Business Relief Fund update. Ms. Sadler, you are going to do this remotely or with some help from the local?
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. So earlier this year, in talking with some of our local business owners, it became pretty obvious that financial assistance would be extremely beneficial to those experiencing economic hardships resulting from the COVID-19 pandemic. And I was extremely proud of our board working together in that in May, we unanimously adopted a resolution authorizing and appropriating $500,000 to the Greater Williamsburg Small Business Relief Fund through the Williamsburg Community Foundation in partnership with the Virginia 30-Day Fund to support county small businesses whose operations and revenues were negatively impacted by executive order restrictions and limitations. Now, our partnership with Virginia 30-Day Fund has provided funding thus far for 110 James City County small businesses to date, representing a diverse variety of industries, including restaurants and personal and professional services, brick and mortar retail stores, home-based e-commerce operations. And additional funds remain available, and applications are still being accepted. And I would encourage anyone to call for more information on applying for these funds, to call our Office of Economic Development at 253-6690. Now, I recently requested that OED and our communications team put together a brief video highlighting one of the recipients of the Virginia 30-Day Fund. And as we might expect, they've produced an amazing presentation, and I cannot thank them enough. I'm just so thrilled for everyone to get to see this. So I'm pleased to share a short video with the board highlighting the milestone of funding our 100th James City County business, and hear firsthand how the program is helping a local business adapt, keep their doors open, and save jobs. So thank you all so much.
James City County is fortunate that we have such a diverse business community with over 4,800 businesses, and over half of those being small businesses. As the pandemic took hold and businesses started to deal with the uncertainties and regulations associated with reopening, there was a great need out there and a great concern over how we were going to keep doors open and keep employees on the payroll. And the partnership that our board's funding through the Community Foundation and through Virginia 30-Day Fund allowed those businesses an opportunity to get access to funds to bridge the gap, to keep employees on the payroll, keep their doors open, and to show their creativity, adaptability, and resiliency that's allowed those businesses to not only continue but to flourish.
Hi, this is Carrie with Sweet Haven Lavender, and we're just very honored and excited to have been chosen as the 100th recipient of the Virginia 30-Day Fund. And we wanted to share with you some tangible ways that the grant is already making a difference in our business and therefore in the broader community. 3 of these specific ways are through partnerships, staffing, and our online presence. So with partnerships, we had been considering branching out and partnering with a local roaster in order to bring a lavender coffee to our mercantile and our online store. And we're happy to announce that we are working with Soulful Roaster right here in Williamsburg. He makes a delicious cup of coffee. We can't wait to have you experience the joy of lavender and coffee. And also, we're going to be partnering with a local winery, so they will be using our mulling spices in their wine at our Christmas open house, where we're going to have 3 days where people can come and shop and experience some of the lavender goodies that we have prepared for Christmas. We'll have hay rides, live music, and opportunities to just have some really cute Christmas family photographs. So very low-key opportunity to come and shop and enjoy the fruits of this fund at work in the community. And there again, in order for these partnerships to continue, we will be having some of our summer staff stay on to help us with packaging the mulling spices and marketing the coffee and getting all of our photography and everything loaded up onto the website. And also to help us to craft our packages for Christmas. So you can come and order in person or online some nice Christmas packages, which will have a singular focus. We'll have a culinary package, a skincare package, a home fragrance package, and a sleep aid package, because lavender is so relaxing. So we invite you to come out and enjoy all of these tangible expressions of how the Virginia 30-Day Fund is making an impact in the community, December 4th through 6th right here at the farm. And once again, we just want to thank the Snyders and Economic Development for helping us to connect with this opportunity to be able to make it into our second year and flourish here in the community. Thanks so much.
Okay, thank you. And is that all you had?
Isn't that amazing?
Yep. Okay,
Good job.
thank you. Okay, we will now move on to public comment, and I have one speaker card. And Big Borman.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Mr. Chairman Eisenhower, members of the board, Mr. Stevens, Mr. Kinsman, Mr. Purse, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Peg Borman, and I reside at 17 Settlers Lane in the Lightfoot area. And I've come again today to talk to you about trash. It's everywhere, and I hate it, and I just don't know how to get rid of it. But I'm hoping if I appeal to everybody, they'll help me get rid of it. So, but along with all the other commissioners on the Clean County Commission, we sometimes feel like we're waging an impossible battle, but we're not going to give up. We're not going to give in, because it's something that it's out there. It's going to be there, but we can all do something about it if we all try. And I'm going to appeal to every man, woman, boy, girl, children, whatever, if they will just take a little more pride in how we view our county and our roadways and our highways, that perhaps we can all become more proud of our community. It's going to take everybody to commit that in order to help our county and the roads and the highways and to keep them clean. We're going to be doing, next week we'll be doing another litter survey, so I'm hoping that it's not as much as I'm envisioning it right now. So if everybody would just do one thing, don't put the trash out the window, but put it in a trash receptacle where it would not be littering along the side of the road. And also in the parking lots and all of that, I've seen so many things that just shouldn't be there. So I'm just appealing to each and every one. If everybody does a little bit, it won't take too much for us to all be successful at this. So, and I'm going to change gears right now. And tomorrow is November the 11th, Veterans Day. And I want to say thank you to each and every one of our veterans. Mr. Eisenhower, I know, is a veteran. We are so indebted to our veterans because they have served us in so many ways to keep us free. And some gave some, and some gave all. They all deserve our thanks and our gratitudes. I'm most happy to see that the county police department has been featuring their veterans on Facebook this past week, and each one of them stands alone, and it's nice to see that there's so many of them because they are being on the police force. They also are still protecting us and still keeping us safe. So thank you, each and all of you. So be sure to show your gratitude toward our veterans tomorrow, because they each one deserve it. And I know from experience how the holidays, the celebrations, important dates to all the families, how much they sacrifice, because my husband was one of those, and he gave his life for our country. So the families also have to sacrifice a little bit too. So I applaud all the families, and especially the military active duty right now. No matter where they're at, I pray that God will keep them safe and from harm, and their families that are waiting for them to return. So thank you for your time, for your service. Each one of you, as you serve today, you also are heroes.
Thank you, Ms. Bowman.
Thank you.
Okay, we now have the consent calendar. Our consent calendar tonight is 7 items. First is minutes adoption. Set 2 is acceptance of funds, Virginia Forfeited Asset Sharing Program, $1,665. Number 3 is a grant award, Patrick Lee Bulletproof Vest Partnership, $39,200. Number 4 is grant award, USC Schwarzenegger Institute's Democracy Fund Initiative, $20,000. Number 5 is Old Town Medical and Dental Center addition, the Development and Communications Assistant position. Number 6 is Old Town Medical and Dental Center addition of a full-time dental director. And number 7 is Old Town Medical and Dental Center addition of a part-time medical director. We have those 7 items on the consent calendar. If anyone wishes anything pulled, please let me know. Otherwise, I'll look for a motion to approve the consent calendar.
Well, I guess I just have a couple of questions about the Old
Sure.
Town. Just because we had a presentation earlier where there might need to be some commingling, so or they were looking at the relationship between Old Town and Colonial Services Board. So just wondering if these positions get brought on, or how does? Are we still in the preliminary stages with all of that? I assume, but
Yes, ma'am. I believe they've had some ongoing conversation. Aaron Thompson, the executive director, is here, and he may be able to speak to that and just tell you. My assumption is these positions are needed beyond that. Mr. Thompson, if you could come to the microphone, please.
thank you.
Good evening.
Evening.
So we are in the preliminary stages. You all were present for the HMA presentation, I believe last month or so, where they gave their preliminary findings. And at this point, we have 2 working groups that we are working on establishing between the boards of Colonial Behavioral Health and Old Town Medical and Dental Center. However, that's in its infancy. And so these positions are separate and apart from that. With the retirement of Dr. William Mann, hence we do have an interim medical director, but we do need a part-time medical director to fill that ongoing, as well as dental and our developmental communications. So because we are a bit off from a decision between the 2 boards as far as where we go from there, that's where these programs and positions emanate from.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Mr. Chairman, if there are no other items to be pulled, I'd move the adoption of the consent calendar.
We have a roll. Please call, we have a motion. Please call the roll.
Mr. Hippel.
Aye.
Ms. Sadler.
Aye.
Mr. McGlennon.
Aye.
Ms. Larson.
Aye.
Mr. Eisenhower.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay. Next on our agenda, public hearings. And I'd like to acknowledge our Planning Commission representative this evening who is in attendance, Mr. Tim O'Connor, back in the room. We'll be calling on him later on. The first is first public hearing is ordinance to amend the County Code Section 15-26. Ms. Palmer will give us the present.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. Before you is an ordinance to amend Section 15-26 of the James City County Code. In its recent session, the General Assembly amended the Virginia Code to remove the misdemeanor penalty for profane cursing and swearing in public. The attached ordinance removes that penalty from the county code. Being drunk in public is still deemed a Class 4 misdemeanor. It's still part of the ordinance. So, County Attorney's Office recommends approval.
Questions?
Out of totally idle curiosity, have we charged anybody under this?
Not that I'm aware of. I saw the WI Daily posted an article, and the police department, I think, regularly enforces the public drunkenness part of the ordinance, not the profane cursing.
No other questions for Ms. Palmer?
No, obviously they have not heard people out in public lately.
Watch television or gone
Yeah.
to a movie? Or...
That's right.
Okay. I'll go ahead and open the public hearing. Do we have any speakers? We'll close the public hearing and look to the board for a
With the adoption of the ordinance.
Stevens, call the roll, please.
Mr. Hippel.
Aye.
Ms. Sadler.
Aye.
Ms. Larson.
Aye.
Mr. McGlennon.
Aye.
Mr. Eisenhower.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay. Our next one is SUP 20-0016 Norge Solar Farm SUP Amendment. Mr. Alex.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. Ms. Robin Lucy has applied for a special use permit amendment for 320, 339, 341, and 345 Farmville Lane to amend SUP 28-2016 approved by the Board of Supervisors on January 9th, 2018. This SUP amendment would amend condition number 17 of the approved resolution to extend the commencement of construction by 12 months from the original expiration date. Should this application be approved, the new expiration date would be January 9th, 2023. There are no further changes to the remaining SUP conditions or the master plan. At the October 7th meeting, the Plan Commission voted 6-0 to recommend approval of this SUP. Staff finds the proposal to be compatible with the comprehensive plan, zoning ordinance, and surrounding development, and recommends that the Board of Supervisors approve the application subject to the proposed condition. At this time, I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have, and the applicant is also available. Thank you.
Questions for staff? And we will ask Mr. O'Connor to come forward and give us the Planning Commission summary.
Evening, everybody. How are you? It was a unanimous vote of the Planning Commission to extend it by the 12 months. Dominion Power was confident that they could make the project happen in the 12-month time period, so they didn't feel there was a need to go beyond that 12 months. They've got the work in their queue. So happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. We'll open the public hearing. Any speakers? Close the public hearing and look to the board for a motion for approval. We have a motion for approval. Mr. Stevens, call the roll, please.
Ms. Larson,
Aye.
Ms. Sadler,
Aye.
Mr. McGlennon, Mr. Hippel,
Aye.
Mr. Eisenhower.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay. The third is SUP 20-0015, 3179 Chickahominy Road Family Subdivision. Mr. Brew.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. Mr. William Harcum has applied for a special use permit on behalf of Mr. Peyton Harcum to create a 1-acre lot within the A1 general agricultural portion of the property as part of a family subdivision at 3179 Chickahominy Road. Per Cranston's Pond AFD ordinance, subdivision of land shall result in parcels greater than 25 acres, except in cases where the Board of Supervisors approve of smaller lots as part of a family subdivision. The new 1-acre parcel would remain within the Cranston's Pond AFD. At the October 22nd meeting, the AFD Advisory Committee voted 5-0 to recommend approval of this SUP. Staff finds the proposal to be compatible with the surrounding development, in compliance with the Cranston's Pond AFD ordinance, and consistent with the comprehensive plan. Staff recommends that the Board of Supervisors approve this application subject to the proposed conditions. I'm happy to answer any questions, and the applicants are also available. Thank you.
Questions for staff?
The only question I had was in previous working with a situation similar, there got to be some complications when it came to driveways and how that was all going to work and crisscross, and I didn't see anything in here. Maybe I went over this weekend. I just want to make sure that's not going to become an issue moving forward, that's all been worked out about how each person will get to their home.
Yes, there is an existing access easement which will be extended to this lot once the subdivision is created through the subdivision ordinance.
When it's created, and I know we had this issue with our family subdivision that I created years ago. The access in and out gave the right to, and after property was sold, and that's what, but gave rights to come in and out, but nothing else. So the issue I had was that even though I set the family subdivision up and we set this up knowing that you could go in and out of it, when I went to put up a for sale sign, then all of a sudden, no, that's my property. You can only come in and out. So it was a way to try to block me from being able to sell the piece of property that I had. And none of that is intended when the family's getting along. It's when the family isn't that the intent changes. And even though I set it up, never thinking that something like that would come about, it did. I think a family subdivision is a unique, neat thing to have. And it worked very well for us for a long time. And it was basically due to the leadership of my mother more than anything. And very strong-willed lady and good gal. We should look at something that if for some reason down the road, one family member wants to sell their piece, that they can put an advertisement on the front of the property of the road so that somebody else can't prevent them from selling their piece. So there ought to be something in the family subdivision rules and regulations within the county. And I should have brought this up sooner. I didn't think of it. And, but should be something put in there in order to keep a spat from another sibling that's could be jealousy or whatever, I don't know, but keep them from trying to prevent somebody from their legal right of selling what is actually theirs and what they've given to their others. So, we may want to look at that on the road, that you could put a for sale sign or something, because families change, things change, life changes. So that's my 2 cents on that matter.
That would be something that I would ask the county attorney if there's anything we need to maybe look at in the future on that. Make a note of that.
Or it keeps everybody happy. Won't keep everybody happy. Thank you.
Any other questions for staff? Okay. Open the public hearing. No speakers. We'll close the public hearing, and I'll look to the. Okay.
Come on up.
Come up to the microphone, please. Please give us your name and address as well.
3183 Chickahominy Road.
Thank you, sir.
That's my place.
Okay.
But what it doesn't show is the access, the road you're talking about. It doesn't show the lot in there either. He's got his own deeded easement that goes through down there. We've been through all this, and I think we got it all straight. So he's got his own easement to go down through there. It's 20 foot, comes right on down there. Of course, he didn't want to be in the front. He wanted to be in the back.
Right.
Kids.
Anything else?
No.
And that's what we had, Peyton, when I set that up years ago. We had the easement and right of way and all that. But since it passed through and the road covered the entire easement, it was a little sticky thing that
But
gave.
I understand.
I'm just trying to for down the road. As life changes, people change, and that's what I.
Yeah, if a man wants to put a for sale sign out there to sell his place, he ought to be able to.
Right. That's exactly right. Common sense. Yep. I agree with that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dave.
Okay. Will we close the public hearing? Do we have any other discussion? If not, I'll take a motion.
So moved.
We have a motion. Mr. Stevens, call the roll, please.
Mr. McGlennon,
Aye.
Mr. Hippel,
Aye.
Ms. Larson,
Aye.
Ms. Sadler,
Aye.
Mr. Eisenhower.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay. We now move to board considerations. And we'll start with the initiation of consideration of amendments to the zoning ordinance to consider contractors' offices and storage, plan unit development districts. Krista Parrish.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Staff has prepared this evening an initiating resolution to consider adding the use of the contractor's offices and storage in the Plan Unit Development Commercial or PUDC district. Staff recommends approval of this initiating resolution. I'm happy to help answer any questions you may have.
So just so I understand a little bit better, this is currently not permitted in the PUD, and this would allow it to be utilized with a special use permit? Or
That
just
is yet to be
that would be
determined,
one of the things that the
the Planning Commission, Policy Committee, and so forth will iron out. I don't think that the special use permit was intended. As you know, PUDCs are governed by master plan, so most of the uses, unless they have bigger,
this would just add the
to
use.
address, it would add the use.
Yeah.
But certainly, that's something that the Policy Committee can consider whether that should be an SUP or permitted.
Just so this is wide open at the moment. This is really a question of whether or not to include this kind of use, and then Planning Commission will consider any kind of limitations on that use or how broadly the use might be in place. Is that right?
Right, and contractors' offices are different depending on the zoning district of outdoor storage. Some has to be screened by landscaping and fencing. Some doesn't allow it at all, and all the materials and equipment are actually enclosed within a building.
Right. Yeah. And so I guess one of the questions I would be looking for when the Planning Commission investigates this is the question of whether in a planned unit development you're really talking about a contractor's office being in an enclosed space because of the nature of the other enterprises around it or not.
Any other questions for staff? Who, did you have anything you wanted to add?
No, I think Christy covered everything very well. Thank you so much.
Very good. Motion? Who, would you like to be the one to make the motion?
I would love to make that motion. Thank you. So moved.
So we have a motion. Mr. Stevens, call the roll, please.
Mr. Hippel.
Aye.
Ms. Larson.
Aye.
Ms. Sadler.
Aye.
Mr. McGlinnan.
Aye.
Mr. Eisenhower.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay. Number 2, fiscal year 2021 budget restoration appropriation, $1,796,000. Sharon Day and Mr. Scott Stevens. Gonna do it.
Evening, Chairman, members of the board. As a result of the economic impacts of the COVID-19 pandemic, the Board of Supervisors made changes to the County Administrator's proposed budget for fiscal year 2021 to reflect anticipated revenue shortfalls and corresponding reductions in expenditures. Based on savings achieved during fiscal year 2020 through restrictions on spending, as well as new resources received, staff recommends the utilization of fund balance of approximately $1,796,000 to restore certain expenditures that were removed prior to the adoption of the fiscal year 2021 budget and other necessary expenditures. Included in that total is $200,000 in contingency to assist with anticipated COVID-19 costs to incur after the expiration of the CARES and other relief funding, as well as other unanticipated expenditures. The attached resolution authorizes the use of the general fund's fund balance for this purpose and authorizes the appropriation in the applicable departments. Staff recommends the adoption of the attached resolution, and I do have a presentation tonight with a few more details of the breakout. This table is a summary to demonstrate the reductions by department between the fiscal year 2021 proposed budget and the 2021 adopted budget, as well as a column for the savings by department again after the close of our most recent fiscal year 2020. As shown, the county reduced its budget by $19.8 million in fiscal year 2021 and coincidentally achieved savings through spending constraints in fiscal year 2020 of also about $19.9 million. So combined, the departments have saved almost $40 million, of which we are requesting approximately $1.8 million tonight to move forward with this year. The specific requests that comprise the $1.8 million total is shown here, again by department. The details are in the purpose column, most of which comprise funding for some of the more critical personnel needs, training, furniture, equipment, and vehicle replacements that were postponed, maintenance of facilities, stormwater facilities, and grounds, and again, a contingency for perceived ongoing COVID-19 needs after the December 30th CARES Act funding expiration. That concludes my remarks. The executive leadership team is here tonight to respond to any specific questions you may have, as well as myself and Mr. Stevens. And again, staff recommends adoption of the resolution.
Questions for staff?
I've got one question on travel and training. Is there an extent of travel instead of, I'm thinking with the pandemic and everything else, we shouldn't be traveling to begin with as much as possible. But if we do travel, it probably should be at the Mississippi River and no further. So we're not going out to California on a training seminar.
True, I think I'll try to respond to that. We've
Okay.
not opened up travel to be very far. We've done regional travel, and then others are case by case. I know one of the requests to restore travel was in the economic development area. It was future trips with the state economic development team, so it was trying to be able to have funding if those trips with the state develops. I know specifically that is in there. And then the other travel, to your point, we are discouraging that at a distance at this point, and so have limited that to the region except case by case.
Okay, so we have a distance that we're trying to
We've
maintain.
really said the Richmond to Hampton Roads
Right,
area sort
which
of
is
being
fine.
that. And again, we do have those conversations with department heads, and if we had a need beyond that, we would discuss it. But to my knowledge, we've not sent people beyond that range since all of this started back in March.
Right. Okay. That's what I was just checking on.
And I would like to add to that in the details that were submitted by the departments, the vast majority of that specifically noted virtual training. I know most of the conferences and things we typically would attend aren't even being held in person this year, if at all. And those that are, for the most part, are virtual. And so this is just a small fraction of what we would normally do in a regular year in terms of training.
I figured so, and I basically want to ask it for the viewing public so that they wouldn't think we're traveling or, and also that the staff has done such a good job of trying to save this money. That's why we're able to put it back, because of the cost savings everyone's done to try to cut things back. So knowing that, and I do appreciate staff doing that, but I just want to get that out there for the viewing public, make sure they knew we weren't going to take off traveling somewhere.
And I'd just like to agree that a lot of credit goes to our FMS staff, to all the departments, and to county administration for their careful monitoring of funding and making sure that we got through the worst of the financial impact successfully. I know we adopted a budget that really looked like what was going to be a pretty bad scenario, and things have not been quite as bad, so that's good, so that we have the ability to come back and restore some of these fundings. But I think it really was a very laudatory approach to take in this regard, and so thank you very much for the work that you all did on that. Stevens, everybody in all the departments as well.
Obviously, we've been doing more with less, so appreciate it. I would just add a little bit that there has been some, I can't speak for James City County, but I do know that with an organization that I'm on the board of, there's a little bit of travel going on. There's a little bit more conferences being held, not many, but a few. For our sake, let's hope that some of them are held right here in good old James City County. So, thank you.
Sue, do you have any questions?
No, sir, I'm good. Thank you.
Hey. Right. We have no more quick questions for staff. I'll look for a motion.
Oh, sorry. So moved.
Okay, we have a motion. Stevens, call roll, please.
Mr. McGlennon,
Aye.
Ms. Sadler,
Aye.
Ms. Larson,
Aye.
Mr. Hippel,
Aye.
Mr. Eisenhower.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay. 3 is the establishment of one full-time regular position. Mr. Stevens.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, James City County strives to provide effective, approachable leadership and to ensure an organizational structure is in place to help with our future leadership needs. As a growing community, it is important that county administration remains involved and easily accessible to our residents. Adding an assistant county administrator position will help meet these goals and will allow us to provide a quicker response to citizens, Board of Supervisors, and employee inquiries. It will also help reduce the number of direct reports of the county administrator and help with the succession planning within the organization. If approved, this position is expected to have an estimated impact of $50,000 or less on the fiscal year 2021 budget, our current year. The attached resolution authorizes the appropriation in county administration and the use of the general fund's fund balance for this purpose. I recommend adoption of the attached resolution for the establishment of an additional full-time regular assistant county administrator position, salary range 25, and for the use of fund balance and appropriation for this purpose. If there are any questions, I'd be happy to try to address those at this time.
No, I just would say that I appreciate the time and effort that you've put into talking with each of us about this position and why it's important to the county. And you have come across as a very level-headed individual. And so I think moving forward, if you find there's, you always seem to be working towards continuous improvement, and I appreciate that.
And I want to extend my thanks for the conscious effort to work with staff and with the board on succession management and basically developing our talent in-house because I think our staff does a wonderful job. Pleased with the
That'll move it.
Okay, we have a motion. Stevens?
Ms. Larson,
Aye.
Mr. Hippel,
Aye.
Mr. McGlinnan,
Aye.
Ms. Sadler,
Aye.
Mr. Eisenhower.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay. Number 4, authorization of 2% general wage increase. Mr. Stevens?
Chairman, members of the board, when COVID-19 began in March of 2020 and due to the economic uncertainty of the pandemic, funding for a general wage increase was removed from the FY21 budget. Due to the numerous measures taken by the county to curtail spending, county finances are currently trending well, and with over $10 million being added to our fund balance at the end of fiscal year 2020. This result was largely due to staff's actions as county employees have taken on many unexpected challenges this year while continuing to provide outstanding service to our citizens. They have achieved this with less money in their budgets, fewer co-workers, more concern for their health and safety, and an uncertain financial future. James City County has recognized the need to provide a 2% general wage increase to maintain the market competitiveness of the county's compensation plan and to recognize staff for their efforts over the past year while being physically prudent. The effective date would be January 1st, 2021, and all full-time, part-time, regular, and limited-term staff of James City County would be eligible. The estimated cost for January 1st through June 30th, 2021 is $500,000. The attached resolution authorizes the use of fund balance for this purpose and authorizes the appropriation in the applicable departments. If there are any questions, I may be happy to answer that. The staff recommends the adoption of the attached resolution.
I have any questions? Just have you talked to the schools? Do you know what? Do they have a plan, or has the superintendent brought a plan to her board yet?
I believe so. I know in talking with the school superintendent, what she was recommending, I think, is presenting to her board was 1.5% for teachers, along with a $500 bonus, or 1.5% for her staff, along with a $500 one-time payment.
Thank you. I asked that because we realized some savings back from the schools, so I just don't want there to be. I'm sure there's going to be some questions raised, so that's why I wanted to go ahead and ask the question. Thank you. With that,
And I do think that if it is the case that there's a discrepancy between what we're providing for our staff, that we might want to revisit the question of perhaps helping schools with supplies.
and I'll move it.
We have a motion. Mr. Stevens?
Mr. McGlinnan,
Aye.
Ms. Sadler,
Aye.
Mr. Hippel,
Aye.
Ms. Larson,
Aye.
Mr. Eisenhower.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay. And our 5th one is the 2021 legislative agenda. Mr. Adam Kinsman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. What you have before you is a resolution to formally adopt your 2021 legislative program. There are no changes from what you had at your work session, other than I just sort of formalized them for you. The first 3 on part 1 are carryovers. The last 4 are your new ones, and everything on your position page is a carryover except for the last one. Happy to answer any questions and recommend that you adopt the attached resolution.
Any questions?
I've got a few. Most of the time, none of these get carried. If we get 1 or 2, we're considered pretty lucky, I think. So there's a lot of them that I'm reading in here that we've got less of a chance to even get on the drawing board. I would like to see this cut down. Maybe we get more picked up if we cut our list down. I know we talked about it, at the last meeting. I should have, been more of a voice then. But I was thinking on part 1, keeping 15, 16, 17. And on part 2, keeping 13, 16, and 18. Is there any others are there any dire ones that somebody thinks?
I want to
We've
pull
got a
these.
lot.
Mr. Hippel, I'd like to pull them up and take a look at them.
Yes.
Since we don't have them.
I'm
in front of
sorry.
us right
So,
here.
so say that again.
On part 1, keeping 15, 16, and 17. And on part 2, keeping 13, 16, and 18. But there may be ones that y'all want to keep more in. So, this is just my suggestion, and just to try to
narrow it down a little bit more in order, because I think we found in the past that with less of them, we may get a better chance of getting one or two picked up than more of them and not getting any picked up.
I'd like to, if you don't mind, to relay that I've spoken, I think, with everybody on every supervisor since yesterday. I think one of the concerns we had was last year when we adopted this and we sent it out to our legislators, there was no effort to make any direct contact between our supervisors and our legislators to talk about this prior to the work session. And as a result, we had discussions at the work session, and I don't believe we had any, I'm correct, picked up.
I look at that and picked up one of ours, and I believe it was the precinct, reporting by precinct, which died in the subcommittee.
Okay. So anyway, what I would suggest is that we've got an opportunity in the next 2 weeks, and I would like to see if we can to adopt this, and basically then, by the time we get to our work session, see if we've been able to successfully line up a sponsor or for some of these, and then at that point we can say, all right, if we get sponsorship, let's go ahead and press on with it. If not, it's sort of nice, we can amend it. But I'd like to have the flexibility to see what we can get work between now and then.
I'm fine either way. I just wanted to bring that out.
Sure.
I talked to you earlier about it. I was going to bring it out. So I just wanted to bring it out. But if you want to leave them all, we can leave them all.
My preference would be to leave them all and recognize that we're going to prioritize certain ones, that some are not really going to get going. But I think we want to have these on record as positions we can support if it turns out that we see some movement on them. Obviously, every year you're going to have a program that some are going to be more likely to be approved or not. And in this particular case, I think I'd be hesitant to not commit. Frankly, I would hope that we could get a little bit more interest in the question about reporting votes by precinct, since our central absentee precinct had the vast majority of all the votes in the county, and we have no idea how the individual precincts actually voted in the last election. And I think that's going to be an ongoing issue as we continue to have early voting periods that are very convenient for the citizens and where they're likely to take advantage of it.
I agree, and I think one of the things with that issue of the voting by reporting the central absentee by precinct is that it's become a much larger issue for not just us, but everybody else in the Commonwealth. And so there may be some more reception, they may be more receptive to dealing with it now, given how we've been through this first extended 45-day pre-election process. I do want to let the board members know that I have reached out to some members of the electoral board and to Anna Mormon, and I think there is the technical ability to do what we want to do. It's a matter of how they have to try to structure it and whether there may be some expenses involved in it. But I think that if we are not able to get it taken care of through legislation, we might be able to get something worked out at the local level. But prefer to leave it in our legislative agenda because it's not just affecting us; it's going to affect a lot of other folks in the county.
I think we've got the vote, or we've already had the vote for Part 2.1.4, the nonpartisan redistricting. That's already a done deal. So we could take that off that's one we could take it. That's the citizens have already. It's taking care of that. So we could take at least that one. Sure. There's no need having that one on because that's already a passed deal, which it wasn't when we put it on. But we've already accomplished one already on the group, huh?
Okay. If you'd like to adopt a resolution with the amendment that we remove 1-4 from Part 2, that would be my recommendation.
Would you like to make that motion?
That's fine. I'll make that motion.
So we have a motion. Mr. Stevens, call the roll, please.
Ms. Larson?
Aye.
Mr. Hippel? Aye. Ms. Sadler?
Aye.
McGlennon? Mr. Eisenhower?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay. We are now down to board requests and directives. You want to let Ms. Sadler start first? Sure. Ms. Sadler.
Sure. Yes, thank you. I would just like to offer my thanks to Diana Mormon and her team for doing such an amazing job with our election process here in James City County. Your long hours and your hard work are greatly appreciated. they did an amazing job for our citizens. And just on a personal note, I would personally miss not being able to work the polls this year because I so enjoy being able to say hi to all the citizens who come out to vote. Since the weather was so nice outside, I was able to run my signs up to one of the schools and drop them off and say thanks and run back home. But again, I missed out this year, but hopefully next go around I'll be able to get out there and meet with everyone. So thanks everyone for understanding. But again, many thanks to Ms. Moorman. I hope she gets some well-deserved rest. And just on a little personal note, I'd like to wish my mother a happy 90th birthday. I hope she doesn't get mad at me for sharing her age.
Wonderful, thank you.
That's great.
Okay.
I'll second the motion on the the question of the hard work put in by all the election officials, and starting with the registrar, but including all the folks who worked so many hours to make the election successful. And the positive comments from citizens were just overwhelming about the convenience of this early voting process and the options that were available to them. I also just would like to mention that I think, like some of my colleagues, I've been attending sessions of the VACO meeting. Fortunately, this time didn't have to travel those dark and winding roads to the homestead to get there, but there have been some very interesting presentations, and especially some positive news coming out of the analysis of the state's financial situation that was glad to see that there may be some additional positive news that down the line in terms of the economic recovery in the state.
Thank you. I too would like to thank all the volunteers that worked election day and pre-election day. But period, they did a great job. However, I'm curious moving forward about a couple of things. One, early voting's great, especially if you're a Democrat or Republican. If you're an independent and you can't man a booth, you have to work for the days leading up to the election. I think it's just an interesting question what this means now, because if you have a party and they can grab a voter walking in with the typical gauntlet that you do on election day, I think it's just an unintended consequence of early voting, but just something that I've been thinking about. I've pondered these past few weeks. The other thing I wondered is, do we need the number of polling places that we currently have? The polling places were flat, and this was a presidential election. We close our schools in order to accommodate polling places. And I drove to the 4 in Berkeley. I can't speak to those in your districts, but there was hardly any, with a 62% turnout prior to an election. Now, granted, it's a pandemic year, don't know, but I have a feeling that moving forward, early voting is going to continue to be just as popular. I guess, technically speaking, you'd need to go through another election, presidential, to see. But when do we start looking at that type of thing to say, do we need this? Because there's expense in that. There's the expense of volunteers. There's if you're going to continue to early vote, do you keep that many polling places open? I don't know. But another thing I'm pondering.
And I don't have the answer for you. I'm happy to talk with Ms. Moore. We have a bit to talk about for early voting in the future and how to help accommodate that. And that's certainly part of the conversation we'll have as well.
Yeah. So, and then I thought what Supervisor McGlennon was going to say was when we were talking about the legislative agenda, that's why I was like, I was disappointed no one picked up any of our pieces of legislation, for goodness sakes. We're representing their community, and they're going to Richmond to represent us. So I'd be curious if they picked up anything. Thank you, Delegate Batten. I'd be curious if they picked up anything from York or the city or any of our legislative agendas. We put time into this, as does VML and VACO, on getting, what are our legislative priorities. And we spend a lot of time, and the fact that our legislators didn't bother to pick that up and do anything with it, I find quite disappointing. And I'm happy to follow through with your plan and or your ask and reach out, but what do we do this year if nothing gets picked up? I mean, that's really sad. So, and with that, I'll close. Thank you. I'll keep pondering.
There you go. Well, couple things. Old Kiwanis member Doug Holler, he passed away this week, and he dedicated a lot of time and effort in our community, and especially in the Kiwanis Club and the Colonial. If everybody remembers the old Colonial polo match, he was very instrumental in getting that going and keeping that going with all the other things he did as well. We'll miss him dearly. He was a big man and had a huge heart. So if you'll keep him and his family his family in your thoughts and prayers. Groundbreaking. We had HRBT groundbreaking, so that is now definitely got to go through. You always hold your breath, but the governor and Secretary of Transportation, VDOT, everybody was out there, and it was a good event. And the rain held off long enough for us to get all that through, and so we can't wait till that project comes through. If you haven't had time to look at it on the computer and go on VDOT's website and look at how the new tunnel and the bridges are going. They show the old one and the new one together, and they've got them a little separated as you're driving through. It's a neat video that was put together, and it was one of the SWAM members of the team that put this thing together. So that also there, we're trying to do as much SWAM as possible for small businesses to get involved into the project as well. So that's pretty good. Back on the family subdivision, if we can definitely look at being able to put a sign. I know what Peyton was thinking, and my mother and father never would have thought one of their children would do that either, but that does happen. And when certain things get going on and family gets how they get sometimes, you don't think something's going to happen, especially when you grow up with someone and you're with them all your life, and then they kind of just have things happen. That's all life is. And but if we can do that to prevent that from happening to any other family member through jealousy or whatever happened there, that make sure that they can put a sign if they do decide they're going to sell one day, that can be taken care of, and wish all of them nothing but the best through their life. Thank
you. A couple of items from the Chamber Business Council, since I'm sitting on that one for us. They are going to have an award, I believe. All board members received an invitation to the virtual award today. It's called 15 Under 50, and it's 15 up-and-coming young business people in the community that have been selected for this award. We have 8 of the 15 from James City County. So I'm very proud of that.
We didn't have any last year.
Yeah, we had 8 of the 15. So that will, I believe that will be, I think, on the 12th, but I have to take a look at it. Yeah, it's going to be on Thursday the 12th at 3:30 in the afternoon. It's a virtual thing. I've been involved with the Military Affairs Committee over there at the Business Council, and one of the projects that we have gotten started, and one of our members did a fundraiser with a GoFundMe page and an attempt to bike and walk all the way along the Richmond Trail all the way to Richmond. Raised enough money that we are now offering $300 to send the young enlisted folks home for Christmas, spending money. And we are going to be able to fund 16 members. We got 8. We'll have 8 from the Naval Weapons Station and 8 from the Coast Guard Station. So wonderful. It's going to be a really nice opportunity to help out the young folks in our military community to do that. I did notice that the Chamber has canceled the Christmas parade. I do believe they have an alternative Santa sighting, some sort of an event that will be advertised here shortly. I am going to be on WMBG tomorrow afternoon, so it's appropriate, Veterans Day, so I'll get a chance to speak there. And I did want to say a word about Veterans Day. Our local veterans are putting out flags on the graves of all of the veterans at Memorial Park tomorrow in the Veterans Day celebration. There will be a celebration also for Veterans Day at 10:30 tomorrow at the Bell Tower in Newtown. And they ask people to wear masks and be socially distanced, but they're going to try to have that event held there. And I will close with the fact that every time it comes to Veterans Day, it's always a little emotional. Think about all the folks I've known over a tremendous number of veterans in this. Please, when you see them. I believe we move to the reports of the county administrator.
Yes, sir. Just to echo on that, I do want to thank our veterans and you, Mr. Eisenhower, for your service as well, and to share that observance of Veterans Day on Wednesday, November 11th. County offices, including the Williamsburg, James City County Courthouse, will be closed. Our James City County Recreation Center, our libraries, our county parks, our convenience centers, and the garbage transfer station will be open. But I do want to say thank you to our veterans, and that's all I have.
I just asked for some clarification because there was a social media tweet or something like that. It said that parks would be, but then it said other parks were going to be closed. Are all parks open or some closed or?
My understanding is they were all open, but I may need to clarify that and make sure we message that if they're not open. So
Okay.
I know the rec center's open. I believe the other parks are open, but I'll try to make sure we clarify that.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Ready. With that, I will take a motion for adjournment till 4 p.m. on November 24th for a work session.
I'm all about that.
Have a motion, Mr. Stevens.
Mr. McGlennon?
Aye.
Ms. Sadler?
Aye.
Ms. Larson?
Aye.
Mr. Hippel? Mr. Eisenhower? Motion carries.
We are adjourned.